Now, on the good news, by the way, it's actually quite stunning how much good news we have. The first and most important piece of good news is that since statistics have been kept, the number of people dying in interstate conflicts is the lowest it has ever been. In fact, the figure given is something like, it used to be in 1950 about 500,000 people would die a year in interstate conflicts, and now it's down to 30,000, and it's still going down. Now, you may not believe this if you turn on your television set and you watch scenes of Syria or Mali and you think, gee, the world is falling apart. Actually, those are ironically only the huge exceptions. But if you look at it globally in terms of the world and what's happening, clearly interstate conflict is becoming a sunset industry. Wars are becoming a sunset industry. And fortunately for me, I wrote the book after Steven Pinker's book came out, The Better Angels of Our Nature. If you have any doubts, just read his book. The statistics are all there, and he explains what's been there. You can read Andrew Mack, and he also gives all this data on how conflicts are dying out. And that's a huge shift forward in human history. Then on the other hand, as you know, we've always been worrying about global poverty. And here the remarkable thing is that, as you know, the UN established some Millennium Development Goals in the year 2000. Many of them, what they call MDGs, will not be attained. But one MDG that we will successfully succeed in meeting is the halving of global poverty by 2015. Now that's quite remarkable, And in fact, from what I gather, we actually, when the data comes out, we'll actually overshoot the target. And even the National Intelligence Council of the United States of America, which, as you know, by nature is an inherently conservative organization, has said in its latest report that global poverty will be eliminated by 2030. And that shows you how much the human condition is improving. And at the same time, while people at the bottom are rising, there's now an explosion of global middle classes. In fact, the number of people experiencing the kind of middle class living standards that probably everyone in this room has got used to was confined to a very small minority of the global population. Now it's exploding. And just to give you one statistic to illustrate how much it is growing, in Asia, right now there are 500 million people who enjoy what you might call middle-class living standards. Now, by 2020, which by the way is only 7 years from now, the number is going to grow from 500 million to 1.75 billion, an increase of 3.5 times in 7 years. Now, we have never ever seen this kind of change in human history, this kind of massive upliftment of people all over the world. And once you begin to see the data, you begin to understand why there's so much optimism in the rest of the world. So paradoxically, at a time when you have this overwhelming pessimism in the West about the state of the world, the rest of the world, the 88% who live outside the West, are actually saying we've never had better times in our history. But of course, there also will be, as the world changes, a lot of challenges. And one of the reasons actually many people in Asia and elsewhere in Africa and Latin America are doing much better is that they're all plugging into what I call the open, interdependent global economy. And they're all participating in it. And as a result, as I tried to explain in the book, we're actually in many ways creating a one world in many dimensions. In the economic dimension, clearly, is one world. In the technological dimension, we're becoming interlinked through internet, phones, and everything.